Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our nation has to offer, especially health care. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.
Excuse me! Taxi!
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
And we are back here on Katz and Cosby. So what is next with Iran? Joining us now is Victoria Coates, former Trump Deputy National Security Advisor. Victoria, the president just came out a little bit ago. He said maybe 10, 15 days max. He said that last time. And then like a day or two later, he hit the nuclear sites. What do you think is going to happen now?
Well, that's entirely in President Trump's hands. But I will say, Rita, he has every option on the table here, including the Gerald R. Ford, our largest, most capable aircraft carrier, which my understanding has passed through the Straits of Gibraltar into the Mediterranean. It can either stay in the Eastern Med to help protect Israel in the event of a reprisal, or it can go through the Suez Canal to join the Abraham Lincoln in the region. So that is just a massive amount of firepower. We have over, I believe, 150 fighter jets. Another 50 came in the last 48 hours. And the final piece, which are the F-22s, my understanding, are on their way. The military has told the president that they're ready whenever he is. They will be completely ready by Saturday, but that doesn't mean he can't act before then. And that gives him every option. I know the offer to the Iranians is sincere. If they will come to what he called a meaningful deal, that can happen. But they're not showing any good signs. They're delaying. We've got to go back another 2 weeks. We won't talk directly. It's all just a big time waste. So if they have a change of heart, that path is open to them. But he has certainly given himself every option in the event that they don't.
Judge Weinberg.
Victoria, good to talk to you. Let me ask you this question. The State of the Union is Tuesday. Does the State of the Union timing have any impact with respect to what he does with respect to Iran?
Great question.
That is a really good question, Judge. From my experience, it would not. He's going to go when the military says the options are the best, that the weather's the best. There are all sorts of factors that go into this, windows of opportunities on targets. He's going to take that guidance for the most effective mission. Now, that said, the State of the Union is a big deal. He's also announced that Secretary Rubio is heading to Israel in the middle of the week next week. Are those final consultations before this happens, or is this going to be for consultations after it happens? And I think along those same lines, the timing of the Board of Peace today was quite significant. You had both head of state and senior representation from a global collection of countries, particularly concentrated on the Middle East. So it was an opportunity for the president to take their temperature, for them to relay the views from their capitals. It's a little bit, in my mind, like that trip he took abroad last May to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and UAE for final consultations before they made a decision on the 12-day war.
Well, I think at the end of the day, President Trump is the only one that really knows when he's going to press the button. But my intelligence sources say that there's a full moon this weekend, and that it's in optimal conditions for our aircraft and other things that we do.
Well, and I think that's what really will guide him is how can we make our military the most effective. And one other point I wanted to make on this real quick is a lot of people were talking about how this was our biggest buildup in the Middle East since the Iraq War. Well, there's been one that was bigger than Iraq since then, and that was the Caribbean last month. So what the president has done has let everyone in the world from Moscow to Pyongyang, from Tehran to Beijing, know that not only could he do that in January and take out Maduro, but here we are in February, and he's doing something even bigger in the Middle East. No other country can do that. So people can talk about, oh, they're stringing him along. Oh, he's weak on China because he's pausing some arms sales to Taiwan. Absolutely not. What he has done is the most grand display of power projection in history on two different continents.
Ed Cox.
What he did in Venezuela, in the end, was a really surgical strike to take out Maduro. Maybe 32 Cubans were killed. What do you think his targets would be here? Would it be surgical, or would it be an all-out attack, along with the Israelis also? That's a lot of firepower.
It is a lot of firepower, and that's the whole thing here, that we have two aircraft carriers that are in the region, and all of those fighter jets and the capabilities of the Israelis. We didn't use partner or allied capabilities really for the Maduro operation. So that puts a lot more on the table, as I said, and I think the administration would consider Operation Midnight Hammer last June as the surgical strike. The Israelis did the 12-day war, then we came in the end with those B-2 bombers. Now, clearly, that did not end this situation. The Iranians continue to have a vote. They had that wholesale slaughter of their people last month. The president hasn't forgotten that. He hasn't forgiven it. And on top of that, they are taking actions around their nuclear sites. They're refusing the terms of the very reasonable deal that Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff have offered. So, the moment when his patience runs out and he sees the optimal chance to strike, I think this could be, they had the option to make it, put it that way, considerably bigger, but they're not massing troops in the region. So I don't think a conventional ground invasion is under consideration.
Victoria, one more thing the American people should know. I understand, and you tell us, because you probably know better than we do, that the UK has put in certain restrictions and certain bases on the United States on attacking Iran.
This is really a disgrace, John. It shows you how terrible the government of Keir Starmer is. And what Starmer is desperate to do is get back into the EU and get out of the special partnership with the United States. I have really applauded President Trump for making that relationship work. But the Truth Social post he put out last night was really important in this. He talks about that special relationship. He talks about how strong it has been. And he talks about how weak Keir Starmer is, particularly in terms of trying to give away Diego Garcia in the Chagos Islands in the Indian Ocean, give them to Mauritius, which is a Chinese ally. And the president's not going to stand for that. I think Keir Starmer is retaliating by trying to restrict what we can use. I think it's terrible. And I think the English people need to know that this has happened.
Well, that's why the American people have to know, too. That's why I brought it up. So just make it very clear. And this gentleman you're talking about is the current Prime Minister of United Kingdom. And he's of what background?
He's an international law aficionado. And that's why he's going off of an international Court of Justice ruling on this rather than British sovereign law.
Wow, that's amazing.
And he's ruling that the United States could not use certain British bases, which is horrible. Is this the first time since 1776?
Well, maybe
1812.
1812.
Right.
Yeah, but in all seriousness, I think about my grandfather training for 6 months in Great Britain before D-Day, and the coordination that went on then, and the sacrifices that were made on both sides. And I mean, Churchill would roll over in his grave to hear Keir Starmer try to limit Donald Trump's ability to attack Iran, a country that hates the United States, hates Israel, yes, but guess what they think about Europe? They hate Europe too.
And Turkey did that to us during the Iraqi war. Where they said you could fly over Turkey. Let's make sure all the American people know the truth. You could fly over Turkey, and then the last minute they said you could fly over Turkey for Iraq, but you have to pay us, what was it, $24 billion?
Yeah, and they told us very last minute, too. You're right. Yeah. So we had to re-rack everything.
And Iran also hates the Brits. Isn't that right,
exactly
Victoria?
Right.
Oh, they do, but they hate all of Europe. Remember, they had a bomb attack planned in Paris. They've had terrorist attacks in Belgium, in Austria, fomented by the IRGC. Why do they have terrorists down in Australia? Because they hate the West. They want to undermine all of our allies. And Keir Starmer is not going to mollify them by picking a couple of bases and restricting us. He's just going to make the Americans mad and destroy our really strong defense partnership.
Well, he's doing that. I agree with you. That's terrible.
And you know, at WABC and at Fox, it's the only place you can get this information is at WABC and Fox.
Well, I'm glad that we're highlighting it.
Thank you, Victoria.
Yeah, Victoria, thank you. Really important stuff.
Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our country has to offer, especially health care. Across every state, every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.